What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the first video with the new GX. Before we get into the fun stuff, we're gonna be doing some maintenance. This video, we're gonna be doing the wheel bearings because it's honestly pretty bad. I'll show you when we get the car jacked up. These should have been replaced a long time ago. Should be a pretty straightforward install, but here is all the tools you need right here popped up on the screen. This is the reason we have to do this. That's with the two lugs torqued on. It's not supposed to move like that. That is way too much play and is deemed unsafe. First, you want to grab a 17mm nut and take off the two bolts in the back that's holding the caliper on. This one's being a little bit stubborn, so we had to grab end of our jack, slide it onto the wrench to get it off. I'm gonna take off this 12mm bolt that's holding on the brake line so it just has more play. That's exactly what I did not want to happen. I'm gonna grab something to hold this up with so that doesn't happen again. Now you can slide your caliper off. And here is your wheel bearing. I will be swapping out the brakes, calipers, pads, all of it in the future. But that will be in another video. We're going GX460 brakes on the 470, so stay tuned for that. But we have to get this dust shield off, and then that will reveal the axle nut to get the wheel bearing off. Easiest way to get this off is put a flathead right here, just tap it. Yeah, this is pretty bad. Your wheel bearing is not supposed to move like that. Next, we're gonna get this cotter pin off. Now it's time for the fun part. You gotta get your 35mm nut and take off this axle nut, which I'm afraid will be difficult because I do not have a impact that will just zip this right off. So we have a torque wrench, might need a couple breaker bars, but let's give it a shot. Just came right off. That's not good. Next, you want to grab your 18mm wrench to get these 4 bolts off right here, and this will take off your wheel bearing. Should be able to get it off with just one quick tap. Boom, that boy is removed. I am gonna be swapping out my CV axles at a later date as well. The old bearing is out. This was in need of replacing. It's just in terrible shape. Before we put it in, I'm just gonna clean the surrounding area and put a little bit of grease on the actual spindles so it just goes on easier. Pretty easy to do. Some of the bolts were stubborn, especially the bolts on the back of the wheel bearing, the 18mm bolts. Those were on there, but we're just gonna get this area cleaned up and zip the other one on. For the grease, we are just using some marine grease for wheel bearings and really anything, just good grease. But we're not putting a lot on. We're just kind of making it easier. One thing I forgot to mention, there is a seal, this to be exact, this seal that you're supposed to replace on the inside of the steering knuckle. But since we are doing our CV axles soon, we're gonna save that to do it then. So let's just throw this new wheel bearing in and get it all tightened up. We also are gonna be putting some thread locker on these bolts right here. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Don't forget to get your dust shield on there. And then once you get your dust shield, you can just throw it down. Start these bolts by hand and then torque them down, or you can't really get a torque wrench in there. Next up is throwing your nut back on, your axle nut. You're gonna wanna torque this down to 170 foot-pounds of torque. To torque this down, you're gonna wanna throw some of your lugs back on, because we're going to make sure the lugs don't spin by putting this jack stand underneath it. And then you just gotta give her hell. Next, throw this back on there, and then the cotter pin as well. I would recommend replacing these. I didn't really think about that until the install. So when I go back to the CV axles, I'm going to get replacements for them. Next up, throw your dust cover back on. Might need to tap this boy into place. Our brake rotors back on, followed by our calipers as well. They're falling all over the place. Hand tighten these bolts until they're nice and snug. Then you're good to torque them back down. Place your brake line back to where it needs to go. Tighten this back up with your impact. Now all that's left to do is you throw your wheel back on, tighten those boys down, and you got yourself a new wheel bearing. If your wheel bearing is doing that, that is no bueno. You should get that replaced instantly. This is how a wheel bearing should feel. Absolutely no play. The other side is not as bad. I don't even know if it's bad at all. It wasn't making any noise, but just a rule of thumb, might as well replace the other side if we're doing that side as well. Makes our lives easier down the road. We actually did the other side off camera. Stay tuned for more GX and travel content, and as always, like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. Actually, look at this. We got a new drone. We're gonna get some sick content for you guys coming soon here. Up in the mountains, because we are in Colorado now. Nice and clean Air 2S. But stay tuned. We'll see you guys. Thanks for watching.